I really don't know how to even start this message, but I feel God pressing on me that He does want me to speak about it. The one thing that God has really pressed on me today is, and has been building this for several days now, has to do with staying in the land and obeying Him. And that, there are so many rules in this world. There are a lot of rules in this world. This world bogs us down with rules. You got to have insurance for this and insurance for that. And, you got to go and get your kids vaccinated. And there are so many rules in this world. An unrelenting amount of rules. But what God was telling me today is you need to obey my law. You need to obey my rules. The places that I'm leading you to obey. And all will go well with you. And what I've learned is that's a full-time job right there, okay? It's enough. But I will say that the burden is light in terms of His rules are straightforward. They don't change, based on politicians or agendas or whatever. He's consistent, and if you obey Him, you're going to have peace. If you obey Him, He's going to take care of you. You're not going to have to be worried about all these things. And one of the things that I was taking up with Him was, Lord, I did all of these things that the world told me were good, and I even compromised my integrity along the way and had it justified. I did all of this. I worked so hard. And it's been this simple all along. The instructions have been simple all along. Well, I don't know if I've read this to you recently, but it seems I have. But God's been bringing me to it over and over because He keeps teaching me something about my current situation and about His heart in general. So this is Jeremiah 42. Then all the army officers, including Johanan son of Kareah and Jezaniah son of Hoshea, and all the people from the least to the greatest approached Jeremiah the prophet and said to him, "Please hear our petition and pray to the Lord your God for this entire remnant. For as you now see, though we were once many, now only a few are left. Pray to the Lord, that the Lord your God will tell us where we should go and what we should do." Okay, so those of you who are not familiar with the book of Jeremiah, Babylon has already laid siege to Jerusalem. And these are the people who are left, and they're saying, what should we do? What does God want us to do? And they're even going to say that may the Lord bear witness against us if we don't obey it. And they don't obey it. They don't obey it. Even though they say these things, they don't obey it anyway. And you know what? I know this story so well. I know it so well because I have given you guys those books, my testimony, the things that God built in me and then had me sharing with you, based on His word, based on teaching transgressors His ways. And people show up all the time. Oh, can I have the books? Yes, you can have the books. I send the books off. I tell them about fasting. I'll even listen to what it is that they're going through and whatever, and I'll give them suggestion and tell them, what it is that God requires and how healing works. And you know what? They don't care. Too easy, I guess. I don't know. And what I mean by that is, did I make it too easy? Did I make it too easy giving this away for free and making myself totally accessible? Did God make it too easy for you? Because I've watched that spirit get cast out. I've heard it in their voices. I've heard the testimonies of how God testifies to what I'm doing and who I am and what I say I'm doing. I've seen it, I've heard it, and then I've seen the people go. One day here, the next day gone. So the people tell Jeremiah, "Pray that the Lord your God will tell us where we should go and what we should do." "I've heard you," replied Jeremiah the prophet. "I will certainly pray to the Lord your God as you've requested. I will tell you everything the Lord says and will keep nothing back from you." Then they said to Jeremiah, "May the Lord be a true and faithful witness against us, if we do not act in accordance with everything the Lord your God sends you to tell us." Is that idle chatter? That is so crazy that someone would say that and actually claim to believe in God, because I'm not trying to call curses on myself. May the Lord be a true and faithful witness against us if we do not act in accordance with everything the Lord your God sends you to tell us. And then they don't do it. Y'all understand why the Antichrist is going to rise up and you're going to go through the hour of trial and testing? because you speak blasphemously like this all the time. You guys send me messages asking me what to do. You guys use these idle words, and then it's laid out for you and you don't do it. May the Lord be a true and faithful witness against us if we do not act in accordance with everything the Lord your God sends you to tell us. And then the other idle chatter that I hear people do is like they look at what I've done and they say things like, oh, I could just give all of this up. I just want Jesus, 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 Jesus. I could just give it all up. And the most recent person who said that, about a week or two after they spoke those words, God started convicting them about one little measly job, and they could not handle it. You know what? It's a complete disrespect to God's servants to speak that idle chatter. Like, what I've done is so easy that you could just do it in a second. Give me a break. I gave up my whole life, every ability to have an income while still paying 2 mortgages. And I did it to serve you. Right, that's so easy. Well, guess what? God made them put their money where their mouth was, and they were gone. They were gone faster than they even spoke those words. You know why? Because the deceit of wealth choked what God had sown. Choked the word, making it unfruitful. If you believe in God, you better believe he hears what you say. You better believe that he hears what's in your heart. May the Lord be a true and faithful witness against us if we do not act in accordance with everything the Lord your God sends you to tell us. Whether it is favorable or unfavorable, we will obey the Lord our God to whom we are sending you, so that it will go well with us, for we will obey the Lord our God. How many times did they say it? The Lord our God, the Lord our God, the Lord our God, and yet they don't even acknowledge him. 10 days later, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, so he called together Johanan, son of Kareah, and all the army officers who were with him, and all the people from the least to the greatest, and he said to them, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, to whom you sent me to present your petition, says, if you stay in this land, I will build you up and not tear you down. I will plant you and not uproot you, for I have relented concerning the disaster I have inflicted on you. Do not be afraid of the king of Babylon, whom you now fear. When I first started going through this whole thing with God telling me, you're going to keep that building that he's been using to teach me how to care for his house, the very building that was going to pay for my house and pay the rest of my time here, and he said, no, I'm not done with the building, you're going to keep it. Okay, I have no idea what God is doing until he brings me through it. He doesn't give me the itinerary up front. He makes me live it out in faith, just like you're required to do. How am I going to pay for this, Lord? I've lived on my savings. I've lived on my retirement. Now it's time for me to cash this out. And you are telling me, just like with Jeremiah, Babylon's laying siege to Jerusalem, but go buy a field, Jeremiah. Oh, okay, I'm going to keep the building that was going to pay for my house. Got it. Okay. And you are not to be afraid of man or the devil, and you are not to trust man. That was the one major instruction that he gave me, that he has used this entire time. You are not to be afraid of or trust man, which means I haven't been allowed to go and consult with anybody about, well, what are the laws around this and what's going to happen and, all of this stuff. Nope. The only one that I'm allowed to consult with is God. So if it seems a little weird in the videos that sometimes I don't know what's going on, that's why. Because it muddles things up. It confuses things. And it confuses things in your heart. You start to think that what the experts are saying is what's going to happen, but the only one who knows what's going to happen is God. God has kept all of my utilities on. I don't have the money to pay for my utilities. He has kept all of my utilities on. How? In 3 different places, because at my home there are two units here. And the third place is the building, the office. How has he done that, guys? Then when my home was set for auction, because there's a foreclosure on both of these properties, my home was auctioned. Why am I still here? How am I still here? And the first auction, God sent the fires and delayed the auction for 3 months. How am I still here? But I want to tell you something. It's not easy, because any minute now, I know darn well that they could post something at my house that says you have 3 days to get out. So that's how I'm living right now. How I'm living is, are you going to trust God or are you going to fear man? And this is the message that God has been telling me, that he's been building for weeks now, is that you are to stay where I told you I set you up. You are to stay where I called you, and I will make the way. Do you have any idea how hard this is right now? It is so difficult, but this is that squeezing process. This is that I have less than 5 months before I die. I have to be proven. Listen to what he says. If you stay in this land, I will build you up and not tear you down. I will plant you and not uproot you, for I have relented concerning the disaster I have inflicted on you. Sounds like a good deal to me, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound like a good deal to you? But listen to what they're going through. Guys, listen to what they're going through. Why were the Israelites always turning away from what God said if it was so easy to be in him, to be his chosen people? If it's so easy, why is it that they kept turning to false gods? Why is it that they kept going back to Egypt? Why is it that they relied on the king of Assyria? If there was so much prosperity according to the way that you're defining it in the world, that God just wants to bless you. He just wants to bless you with wealth, right? No, turns out they were working the land, and he would send things like plagues and famine and things like that when they disobeyed. And what Egypt offered them was abundance. It was there was easy access. They didn't have to rely on God. It's the same thing all throughout history. This is why God said you're not to become like these other nations. There was an enticement there. There was something seductive about becoming like these other nations. And we are those other nations right now. We go to doctors and idols instead of relying on the covenant God established with us, which is when I send these things, whether it be to your body or the earth or your crop or whatever, you need to return to me. Exodus 15:26, I will not send on you any of the diseases that I put on the Egyptians if you obey me. I am the Lord who heals you. Where did doctors come from then? Where did this idea of Mother Nature or science, or where did all of that come from? The other nations. And it's a big problem that those calling themselves Christian think this way. I just gotta, because I don't believe in God, right? Just gotta go return to all that vomit. If you stay in this land, I will build you up and not tear you down. I will plant you and not uproot you, for I have relented concerning the disaster I have inflicted on you. Listen to what he says. Do not be afraid of the king of Babylon, whom you now fear. This is the same message that God gave me. It's the same heart. Don't be afraid of man. Don't trust man. And don't be afraid of the devil. Do not be afraid of him, declares the Lord, for I am with you and will save you and deliver you from his hands. Do you guys believe that or not? Because I'm standing in it. And I know that the reason he's recreated it this way is partly for your benefit. It's partly to purify me, but it's also for your benefit. I will show you compassion so that he will have compassion on you and restore you to your land. However, if you say, we will not stay in this land and so disobey the Lord your God, and if you say, no, we will go live in Egypt, where we will not see war or hear the trumpet or be hungry for bread, then hear the word of the Lord, you remnant of Judah. Now let's just go through that real quick. Where you will not see war. Oh, so they were seeing war. Where you will not hear the trumpet. Oh, so they were being warned by a prophet, by a watchman. Where you will not be hungry for bread. Oh, so they were suffering. And the implication is that Egypt would have spared them from all of that, and they wouldn't have to rely on God. Because you know what? God doesn't hand it over on a silver platter. He makes you work for it. Y'all know the process of that wooing process, that process in a relationship where, like, you know, when someone just gives you everything in a relationship or in a dating relationship, you don't value them very much, do you? When you're working for it, then you start to value them. You start to see the value in the relationship and in that person, because they've created a situation where you're not going to take them for granted because they're not going to tolerate it. And so you're working in order to get a prize. What's the prize? I don't know. Is it affection? Is it time with them? And then you get that prize and you're like, it just feels so good to be in their presence. Y'all need to keep your eye on the prize because it's easy to forget the rewards of the Spirit. We're talking about a human relationship in which there are rewards in a fleshly manner. We're not talking about necessarily physical rewards, but fleshly rewards of being in the physical presence of another person. Sometimes that includes physical affection. Sometimes it includes emotional exchange. But it's a lot harder to hold on to the rewards of the Spirit. It's a lot easier to forget if you're not fanning into flame His Holy Spirit and actively remembering, actively making yourself conform your heart to what God has done and who He is and who you've experienced Him to be. You got to hold on to that, don't you? In order to stay the race, in order to keep working for Him. It's a panting process, right? David talked about that. David said, as the deer panteth for water, so my soul longs for you, dear Lord. If you say we will not stay in this land and so disobey the Lord your God, and if you say, no, we'll go live in Egypt where we will not see war or hear the trumpet or be hungry for bread, then hear the word of the Lord, you remnant of Judah. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. If you are determined to go to Egypt and you do go to settle there, then the sword you fear will overtake you there, and the famine you dread will follow you into Egypt, and there you will die. I want you to know something. I have made some crazy decisions. Crazy. They're crazy to me too. Choosing not to sell that building, crazy. That was a crazy decision. Probably one of the craziest. But you know what? I don't make decisions like that lightly. I never have and never will. So you best believe that I made sure that that was what God was telling me to do. And here's the thing I want to tell you, is that I didn't gain any wealth because God just wanted to shower it on me. I gained that wealth in order to do what God was going to tell me to do with it. Do you hear what He says right here? If you are determined to go to Egypt and you do go to settle there, then the sword you fear, the very thing you fear, is going to overtake you. If I don't listen and obey what God tells me to do, what do you think is going to happen to me? Because I do believe in God and I do fear Him. And He has taught me through this experience to fear only Him, not to fear man. Because there is literally nothing that a human being can do to me that God has not planned, that He has not ordained, that He is not using. The only thing that matters is that I've obeyed God. And I was a big rule follower of the world. And you know what? It didn't really get me anywhere. It made me a slave. So I will gladly transfer over that slavery to the one who has redeemed me, who actually is loyal. Indeed, all who are determined to go to Egypt to settle there will die by the sword, famine, and plague. Not one of them will survive or escape the disaster I will bring on them. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. As my anger and wrath have been poured out on those who lived in Jerusalem, so will my wrath be poured out on you when you go to Egypt. You will be a curse and an object of horror, a curse and an object of reproach. You will never see this place again. Do you hear the promise? Do you take it seriously? Because there are a lot of people playing the victim when God has made it very clear. You do these things, this is what's going to happen. You will be an object of reproach. You will be a horror. You will be a curse. And then when these things happen, people have a totally different narrative. They don't for 1 second stop and go, oh, I disobeyed God. Oh, I turned to idols. Oh, I turned to the work of my hands and the world and counterfeit religion. Remnant of Judah, the Lord has told you, do not go to Egypt. Be sure of this. I warn you today that you made a fatal mistake when you sent me to the Lord your God and said, pray to the Lord your God. Pray to the Lord our God for us. Tell us everything He says and we will do it. I have told you today, but you have not obeyed the Lord your God in all He sent me to tell you. So now be sure of this. You will die by the sword, famine, and plague in the place where you want to go settle. And so the message that God is speaking to me personally today has to do with my particular situation continue to stay in the land. He has continued to provide. He will continue to provide. He will continue to conform. I have no idea how he's going to do it because he doesn't give me the play-by-play any more than he does with you. What I am required to do is to stand in that belief and not waver. And it's a hard thing to do, guys. Do yourself a favor and don't go running your mouth acting like it's easy. Or what some people are in the habit of doing, which is telling me how to do this when you don't know the half of what I'm doing. Speaking incorrectly about what God requires. Stay in your lane. Know your role. Know my role. I tell you all the time to discern what it is God has me doing. I want to be real clear with you. I don't share my testimony with you so that you can tell me how to live this out. I share my testimony with you because I'm required to. God is the one who tells me how to live this out. God is the one who moves me through this. And if you have any sense or wisdom about you, you will understand that the witnesses are here to live this out before you so that you have that example. How loving and merciful is God to give you that at this point in history, knowing also that you're going to reject it. And so that is the reason you will continue to be here, for the hour of trial that he's going to bring on the entire world. But you're going to remember the things that you're listening to me or watching me live out in front of you. You're going to remember. If you're his, he's going to bring you through some incredible suffering in order for you to be proven. You're going to remember. And so if you go running your mouth, the other thing that you're going to remember is what you ran your mouth about when he puts you in the very situation you thought you knew so well. Please hear what I'm saying, because there are several of you who've done this. You don't know what I'm living out right now because you read about it in a book or for any other reason. If you have a testimony to share, share your testimony. Your testimony, by the way, is what God has built in you. Listen to what I'm saying. What he has built in you. Don't tell me that you understand what I'm going through because you lost a job and you were homeless. It's not the same thing. I gave up my career to do what I'm now doing in very difficult circumstances in which God is requiring me to stand in faith. Is that the same thing? It's not the same thing. And don't misinterpret or distort scripture in order to have something to tell me about how I should live this. Please be wise, be prudent about the things that you speak, because God will deal with you. And I don't want any of you bringing that kind of judgment on yourselves. So this is what the Lord tells me today. There are no other rules that I'm going to miss. No other rules in the world that I'm going to miss. No expertise that I'm missing out on from man. The only thing that matters is following God's Spirit. The only place where you're going to receive your instruction on how to live this out is from God's Spirit and his word. You don't need to worry anymore about what the world requires of you. And in fact, you won't make it if you do. Please discern this message with God. Please don't let my offering be in vain. I'm not saying this for my sake. I'm saying it for your sake. Don't let my offering be in vain to you. Lean into what God's telling me to do and what this means according to Scripture and why it is that this would be important to him, that I'm standing in this kind of faith. Please discern this with God.